Hello and welcome back to this edition, episode number 7 of the Inside the Vault, a Carolina Panthers podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Smith. This podcast is brought to you by the Keep Pounding Podcast Network. Follow them on Twitter at KP_Pounding_FSSN. And this podcast also powered by the Fans First Sports Network. Follow them at Fans First SN. And you can also rate and subscribe to the Tobacco Road Radio YouTube channel at youtube.com/Tobacco Radio. Well, here on Inside the Vault, we try to give you the best guest and most inside the vault information that we can give you. And my host today, two guests for the first time on this podcast, not just one, but two, the Keep Purring Podcast hosts. We've got Ben and Eric. Ben, welcome, and Eric, welcome to Inside the Vault.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, thanks so much for having us on. This is awesome. This is our first guest appearance on another podcast, so super exciting for us.
Of course, it's so good to have you on. Let's go ahead and just jump into preseason action. We'll start with the Jets and Giants preseason games, just from a 4,000-foot view. What did you see in those games?
Yeah, I thought that there was a lot to be excited about. There is also some concerns not having scored a first team touchdown, but minor details. But I do think that I've chosen to focus on the fact that, hey, listen, this is preseason for everybody. It's preseason for the coaches calling in the plays the correct way. It's preseason for for just from a prep standpoint, from walkthroughs and whatnot. So that's what this is for. It's for the screw ups. It's for the mess ups. It's so that we don't do it in the regular season. Are we scoring as much as we want to be? Nope. But I think we're going to be heading in the right direction, and hopefully we can iron out all the wrinkles now.
Yeah.
And for me, you want me to kind of give my take too for the Giants game?
Yeah.
I mean,
sure.
For me, it's kind of a lot of the same. I know people are frustrated. Fans are frustrated. They want to see points. They see these other rookie quarterbacks, the Aiden O'Connells of the world, and the Dorian Thompson-Robinsons of the world out here lighting it up seemingly, and then Bryce Young's coming out and throwing 3 for 6 for 27 yards. So it's on the surface, it's a little frustrating to some fans, not to me or Eric. I think Bryce Young has looked great in limited time. He's thrown 12 passes. We haven't seen a ton. So people just need to be patient, but he passes the eye test. I think we can all probably agree. I mean, he looks as advertised. I have zero concern about Bryce. And actually now I'm even more encouraged about Bryce than I was, when before the preseason started, because now he's taken a couple hits. We've seen kind of how he navigates the pocket, how he can evade pressure. He's so he's so decisive, and he throws the ball where only his guy can catch it. If his guy's not going to catch it, then no one's going to catch it. So it's just been super encouraging. The offensive line has been bad. That's concerning. Ike Ekwonu, not sure what's going on there. They kind of talked about that a little bit in the press conferences as recently as yesterday. I think there were some communication issues there, and then I think the first team defense, that was a little concerning against Daniel Jones. Without Saquon Barkley, by the way, let's point that out. Friday night, they did not have their best player on offense. And I thought we were playing Patrick Mahomes there for a couple drives. I mean, Daniel Jones looked amazing. So, some things to work out. But again, it's preseason, so
Yeah. Well, just a couple of caveats there. We were playing without Derek Brown, without Brian Burns, and without Justin Houston. Justin Houston is 34, but he still is now on our team. And then from a Frank Reich perspective, I will say that we'll get into that a little bit, but there has been some, I think you've heard vanilla play calling is the term we've seen. And then Thomas Brown comes into the second half play calling, and it's like, we're now scoring points. And what's this? So we'll get into that in a little bit. And we'll also get into the icky thing, as you mentioned, in just a few minutes. Like you both said, I think the offense, we could all see some more points for sure. The defense, we could see maybe some field goals instead of touchdowns if we have to let the first team score. But at the end of the day, it is preseason for everybody, players, officials, and coaches. We had a recent transaction for the last few days, and so we'll get into that now. We signed Troy Hill, cornerback, former Ram, familiar with Ejiro Evero, and also Jonathan Cooley, the new cornerbacks coach. Their system fits him pretty well. And then the corresponding move, which I'm going to be honest, I was shocked. Marquan McCall was the corresponding move today.
Right.
I was pretty stunned. I'm not going to lie. That was something I didn't. I thought somebody like, well, I won't call him out on here, but basically some of the O linemen that maybe weren't so good, and the backup, some of those backups might have gotten the boot instead. But it ended up being Marquan McCall, and I think I'll let you guys answer this question, but I'd say kind of similar to Bravion Roy, they kind of viewed him as not quite the scheme fit that they were hoping, and maybe giving him that chance to, as Frank Reich said, to latch onto another team because they do see that talent that he has. So my question here is thoughts on the Troy Hill signing to provide depth in the corner room, and then also the corresponding room with cutting McCall.
Yeah, I think I like the Troy Hill signing. I think it's added depth. Like you mentioned, he played under Evero in Los Angeles, and as well as the Panthers cornerbacks coach, actually, Jonathan Cooley, as well in Los Angeles. So, and for me, an added bonus with Troy Hill is that I don't know if you saw, he has like an owl or an eagle tattoo on his neck, which is pretty cool. So love that. And then, what about you, Eric? Did you have any thoughts on the Troy Hill?
No, I mean, I think that, any depth that we can get in that position is good. I think that, maybe it has something to do with Dante, and we're not exactly sure what that injury, is, how severe it is. Maybe it's worse than people think. Who knows? There had to be a reason for them to make that call, and terrible McCall pun. But there had to be a reason for them to make that decision. And this is one of those times where we're not in the meeting rooms, we're not in the medical rooms, we don't know what the deal is. But we have to trust that, Scott and Frank and all the people that are making these decisions, they're doing it in what they believe is the best interest of the team. So I think that us talking about it is kind of like pontificating over stuff that we're not totally sure, all of the details. And so I think in Fitterer we trust, and we'll see. There has to be a reason behind it.
Yeah. And as we move forward on the offensive side of the ball, you just mentioned it, Ben. Ike Ekwonu has been struggling these first two games in the preseason. Now, I want to caveat it, make sure our listeners know, in case you're not familiar with his draft profile, his run blocking skills out of NC State were second to none. He was pancaking guys left and right. That has been a real strength of his going back to college. His pass protection was always the thing that needed to be worked on and refined a little bit in the NFL. And as we saw last year against Myles Garrett week 1, rough outing, but you're going against Myles Garrett, so that's okay. And it's your first game ever in the NFL. So I feel like, this preseason rust for Icky? Perhaps. And perhaps it's also him getting that fine-tuning, that coaching from James Camp, and that he is only a second-year left tackle going up against Kayvon Thibodeau, who's really good, and also going up against Quinnen Williams, who is really good. And so I'll just get your thoughts kind of on Icky's struggle this preseason. Should we read into that, or are we just making too much of a big deal out of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we hear about the sophomore slump in quarterbacks on a regular basis. And, sometimes you're just coming off of, it was a pretty good season, right? He played every game, and, things were trending up. And I think that he isn't able to come in. He has to kind of take on a little bit more of a leadership role now that he's not a rookie. And I think that just, I don't know if it weighs extra or whatever. I'm not that concerned. Did it not look good that he just seemed to not know what the play was? When Bryce gets sacked, and some of those things don't exactly inspire confidence, but we don't just have the last couple of games to look at. We have the entirety of last year. And he's a known quantity. He's going to get it back, going in the right direction. I'm not concerned about that.
Yeah, I agree. I think we are probably, fans in general, and we're probably overreacting a little bit. It's been concerning. I mean, it's 2 weeks in a row that by the way, that he's had the lowest PFF grade of all of our starting offensive linemen. But I think I think it's just a little slump that he's in right now. I think he's going to turn it around by the start of the season. And Eric, you kind of alluded to it. He had that mental error or the communication error, whatever it was, on that Thibodeau sack. I mean, it was crazy. It was like he passed Thibodeau off to a ghost. There was no one there. And according to Frank Reich, he misheard the line call. They have a couple line calls that sound identical, which Eric, you pointed out on our podcast that, hey, maybe we should change that. Maybe that's not the best idea. So yeah, but I think he'll be just fine.
Yeah, same. Some of these questions, as you'll kind of gather as we go, I'm sure we'll get into some more meat that the fans will want to hear. So this next question, the fans may not want to be hearing about this. Jake Luton, the fourth string quarterback who got in for a little bit on this preseason game against the Giants. Does he have a case to make this roster over Matt Corral, or are we just overreacting because Matt Corral might have had his best game as a Panther in the second half of that Giants game?
All respect to Jake. Is it Luton?
I think so. Luton, I think so.
I don't even know how to pronounce his name. All respect to him. I'm sure he's a great quarterback, sure. Great guy. I don't think there's any chance that he's going to make this team. Honestly, for me, and I might be in the minority here, I'm not even sure that Matt Corral is going to make the team. He's probably going to make the team as a third string, and maybe they can trade him at some point. But no, I don't think there's any way that Jake from State Farm makes the team.
He did throw a couple of dimes though. There were a couple of balls that that were good, and do I think it's going to happen? No, but he didn't look totally lost.
He's got starting experience in this league, very limited starting experience down in Jacksonville, but still experience nonetheless. And Corral does not have that at this point. And, we don't want to see San Francisco 2.0 this year with our quarterbacks, like they found out in the playoff game, in the championship game. But, so we'll see what happens. But I'd agree with you. I think Corral is still making this roster as QB3 when it's all said and done. Before we preview the Lions game, some preseason battles that we've been watching throughout camp and now into the preseason. We've got right guard, we've got defensive end opposite Burns. We all know Houston's going to obviously be there for most of it, but I'm more talking about guys like Barno, Marquise Haynes, Yetur Gross-Matos. Who's going to step into that full-time role. So what are some of your predictions on those fronts? Right guard, defensive end, two. And then the wide receiver order, who do you see is our 1 through 3 when it's all said and done?
I'll start. Okay, so the first one was offensive guard. Is that right?
Right guard, Corbett's replacement.
Right guard. Yeah. So I thought Chandler Zavala looked pretty good, all things considered. I mean, it's his first NFL action, and I thought he held his own. And that was encouraging to see. Obviously we had a lot of high hopes for him when we drafted him, but that was his first opportunity. So I thought he looked pretty good. You go back to the first preseason game and the combination of, was it Cade Mays and Justin McCray?
Followed by Michael Jordan.
Followed by Michael Jordan.
Not the Bulls guy, in case.
Not that one.
Not that one.
I honestly think Chandler Zavala has a really, really good chance to start the season.
That was going to be my prediction. Yeah.
Yeah, I really do. What were a couple of the other positions you mentioned again?
So right guard was my first one, and then Justin Houston we know is going to be there on defensive end opposite Burns, but maybe not in a full-time role. So is it going to be Marquise Haynes? Is it going to be Yetur Gross-Matos? Is Amari Barno going to step up as we've seen these first two games? What are your thoughts on that position?
Yeah, I think Amari Barno has been super encouraging to see that. We know he's fast. Ran a 4.38 according to Mr. Fitterer. We know he's fast, but it looks like he's bulked up a little bit. He's flashed in the preseason so far. So I definitely think he's going to make the team, and I think he'll rotate in, every once in a while and spell Houston. Haynes, it was cool to see him finally. I think today he came back to practice.
Yep.
And for the first time in 3 or 4 weeks. So that was awesome to see. He's definitely going to be a factor. And then was it wide receiver? Was that the third one?
Wide receiver order. Yeah. We'll say 1 through 4. What's our top 4 when it's all said?
Yeah. 1 through 4 is Thielen, Chark,
yeah,
Terrace Marshall, Jonathan Mingo. not necessarily in that order. I know the
Yeah.
depth chart
Yep.
had
Yep.
Mingo as a starter, but
So
yeah, those
four.
are the top
Okay.
4.
Okay. Yeah. And do we say is it going to be Chenault and Shi Smith, or do we say just Chenault and Shi Smith does not meet the roster?
What do you think, Eric?
I hope Shi Smith makes it. I've been a champion of his since he was drafted. Like, I remember watching him at South Carolina and some amazing plays that he had. I don't know why, but I always had an affinity for him as a player. So personally, I would love to see him make it, and I think that he made a bit of a case for himself at the towards the end of this past game. I mean, he looked really
we did
good.
see this last year though, Eric, in the preseason. We did see that.
I know,
That's
but
true.
I am an optimist. I want him to do well. I would like to see him make it. But hey, listen, this is the tough time of year where really tough decisions are having to be made, and it's a razor thin margin as to who makes the team and who doesn't.
Let's talk about the Lions game. Preseason finale on Friday. Frank Reich came out and said Bryce Young and the offense is going to get about the same leeway as they did in the first 2 preseason games. So I'll just kind of let you both take it away. What to watch for on offense, what to watch for on defense.
All right. So for me, I think we can expect probably things to be just as, if not more, vanilla than they have been. And the reason I say that is because it is weird. This is very weird. I don't think I've ever seen this before. We played the Lions in week 5 on October 8th in Detroit. And so, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but from my vantage point, why would Frank Reich and co want to go out and show anything at all in this preseason game? So I think we can expect more of the same. Now, that said, I'm excited Bryce is going to get one more opportunity and the first team offense. I really, really would love to see them sustain a drive and score a touchdown. It would just be really encouraging and kind of, allow us fans to kind of leave the preseason with good vibes going into the first regular season game. So I would like to see some success from the first team offense. And then on defense, I'm going to be looking out for those. We kind of talked about those edge rushers earlier. I'm going to be paying really close attention to like Barno, guys like that, to see can he do it, 3 weeks in a row? Can he put out another good performance? And another guy, Kobe Jones, I really thought we were going to hear a lot more from him. And I haven't really heard his name called that much. And
No,
I think
recently.
I think his spot on the roster is in jeopardy, like a lot of guys. And so I'm really hoping that we get to hear his name called, and then the new cornerback, Troy Hill. I think it'll be cool. I don't know if he'll play this early, but it'll be cool to see if he does.
Yeah, I think that, for me, first and foremost, the number one thing that I care about is no injuries, and just trying to keep that to a minimum, make sure that, we're continuing to keep the guys, bodies in the right shape, and everybody comes out unscathed. From an offensive perspective, I'm really hoping that, we see a touchdown, we see a sustained drive, we see some first downs, and kind of keep the ball moving and just have a little bit of momentum moving forward as we're coming into the season. From a defensive perspective, I think that with the Giants, Waller absolutely ate us up, and we looked like Swiss cheese going through the middle. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be, paying attention to, is how are we handling that? I know, again, the vanilla thing, whatever, but we got to be able to stop the tight end. And after the second time that he catches a good gain, we really got to stop the tight end. And after the third time, right? So we need to show the rest of the NFL that we can fix that problem, and that's not going to be a weak point for us.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to save some time, I would agree with the whole vanilla thing. I think we're just blowing this up out of proportion. I think Wright just doesn't want the Falcons to get any iota of what we're doing week 1, and I think he's willing to risk going 0-3 in the preseason to do that. And I think that's really what it's all said and done. Real quickly, Brian Burns, are we going to see a new contract before the start of the season? Yes or no?
No.
I'll say yes. I'm going to be optimist.
Okay.
I'm going to say optimist. I'm going to say September 1st. That's in about.
I would love that.
I'm confident it's going to happen at some point, but who knows?
Yeah. A little rapid fire as we close it out here. Give me one player each. All three of us will give one player who has been stock up or stock down in your mind through these first 2 games. You can give me a stock up or a stock down.
I'll go stock up. Barno has looked great. I'm loving to watch. Seeing what we're having a lot of progression and it's excitement. So I'm going Barno.
Okay. And Ben, what about you?
Stock up. I'm gonna go Raheem Blackshear. I think I was really excited to see what he would do in the preseason. A lot of people have high hopes for him. I really think, and a lot of people think that he can challenge for that RB2 spot. So I think Raheem Blackshear has looked good so far.
Yeah, a shout out to Jonathan Stewart on the Believe Panthers podcast. He said Raheem Blackshear has that dog in him. He specifically said that term about Raheem Blackshear. I'm going to go with Jonathan Mingo for my stock up. He has done really well, and I really think that wide receiver 3 depth chart first people thought was a joke over Terrence Marshall. I think is starting to become pretty more serious at this point. But again, one game preseason, we'll see what happens. Last few minutes here, we'll get you out with some predictions. And again, Ben, Eric, it's been so great having you guys here on Inside the Vault. We so appreciate you coming on and giving us a few minutes of your time. Real quickly, before we get there, Bryce Young, give me just a quick overall thoughts from that you've seen so far. You touched on this a little bit ago, but just overall thoughts.
Yeah, I won't go into too much detail because I already kind of expounded on this, but I think he's looked good. I think he's looked as advertised. I have zero concern about him going into the season. I think he does not look like a rookie whatsoever, and I'm super excited about him.
Yeah, good. I can say Von Bell and Hayden Hurst have both said that he looks like Joe Burrow from 2020, and that's a good comparison. We'll see if he can play like him. We'll see. Predictions for next season. Let's just go ahead and get these done, and we'll get you out of here. Player who takes the biggest leap on this roster.
Yeah, Blackshear was actually going to be my answer, but I'll either go with that or Frankie Louvu. I know he got some attention before the season, but I think he's going to really show us what he's made of.
Louvu, okay.
I'm going to go Jeremy Chin. Awesome. I think Jeremy Chin is going to get back to looking how he did his rookie season when he played linebacker.
I'm going to go Derek Brown. I think he's going to take a next step in this 3-4 scheme. Biggest surprise theme from this season when it's all said and done. Season's played out. What's our biggest surprise?
Biggest surprise? It wouldn't be a surprise to me, but it might be to some. Is the fact that Bryce Young's going to lead this team, and he's not going to look like a rookie. He's going to make mistakes, but I'll get to what my record prediction is if that's what we're going to go to next. But biggest surprise is Bryce Young is not going to look like a rookie, and he's going to challenge for that offensive rookie of the year spot.
I'm going with the cornerback side of things. I think they're going to be better than the industry says. I think that they're going to surprise some people, and that from a back safety cornerback, we're gonna be looking good.
I'll say Hayden Hurst is second in the in touchdowns in this entire team. That'll be my
love it
when it's all said and done. Real quick, yes or no? Does our undrafted free agent make the team? I'm gonna say at this point, no, right now.
An undrafted free agent?
Yeah, they can.
No.
Okay. I think we're yes on that. All right, and then finally. What's our season record when it's all said and done? I've got 9-8 is my prediction when it's all said and done.
That's right where I am. I'm right about 500, either a game, in positive or negative, but I think we missed the playoffs by a game.
Okay.
I got you beat. I'm going 10-7, boys.
Okay.
10-7, yeah. I think we're going double digits this year. We could even get up to 11. I'm not afraid to say that. So
depending on how Bryce plays, you are not wrong.
I think we're going to challenge for that division.
Awesome. Well, as I said at the top, my guests today have been the Keep Purring Podcast co-host of Ben and Eric. Gentlemen, so good to have you on Inside the Vault, and thank you for coming on today, and we'll see you around the time.
Thanks so much for having us.
Appreciate it.
And that will wrap up this episode of Inside the Vault, episode number 7. As I said, you can rate and subscribe to the Tobacco Road YouTube channel at youtube.com/Tobacco Radio. Again, I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and we'll see you next time.